for a privileged speech and avail of the privileged hour. May we recognize first Senator Joel Villanueva, Mr. President.
So you are deferring the reference of business.
Yes, Mr. President.
All right.
That's the request of the
Senator
our
Joel
colleagues.
Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise before you on a matter of personal and collective privilege. In February 2018, a new law that elevates, empowers, and energizes technical vocational education and training, or TVET, was signed. This law, Republic Act Number 10970, declares the 25th of August of every year as a special working holiday in observance of the National Tech Voc Day. Mr. President, it's only the second year of implementation of this law, but we are very happy for the overwhelming support of the entire TVET sector, particularly TESDA, being the lead agency in our celebrations. Unfortunately, the 25th of August falls on a Sunday this year. It is the reason why it is being celebrated this week. So, happy National Tech Voc Day po sa ating lahat. The World Cafe of Opportunities, a one-stop shop for job seekers, which TESDA and its partners organize in different parts of the country, is a concrete example of the many benefits of the National Tech Voc Day to our kababayans. This is precisely what we want our people, especially the young, to see. The fact that there is indeed a world of opportunities in technical vocational education and training. And we're very glad that a great proportion of learners in senior high school, almost 40%, chose the Technical Vocational Livelihood or TVL track. And for the past 5 years, from 2014 to 2018, TESDA has been able to produce 10,517,843 TVET graduates. As the author of this law, beholding the enthusiasm that everyone has to readily embrace and celebrate the National Tech Voc Day is a humbling experience indeed, Mr. President. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagtugon sa hamon ng bagong batas na ito. And just a little bit of trivia, Mr. President. August 25th is also the birthday of TESDA. This year, our most beloved and I would say favorite agency is celebrating its silver anniversary. So to the TESDA family who are here with us, kanina po kasama natin si Secretary La Peña at ilang mga DDGs, Deputy Director Generals, happy 25th anniversary. As you know, the creation of TESDA was a recommendation of the Educational Commission or EDCOM of 1991, chaired by former Senator and my personal mentor, Senator Edgardo Angara, the father of our colleague, Senator Sani Angara, who, like his father, is also a staunch advocate of education. Let me add that our good Senate President, Senator Tito Soto, was a member of the 9th Congress when Republic Act Number 7769, or the TESDA Charter, became a law. Today, we honor all our predecessors who positioned technical vocational education and training through the creation of TESDA as one of the principal drivers for national development, progress, and improved quality of life. And I feel so proud, Mr. President, for having had the chance to be TESDA's secretary from 2010 to 2015. I also remembered, Mr. President, during my early days at TESDA, we had the Date with Nature project. The project is for every TESDAN to plant a tree. And so I bought my son, Jaden, who was just a few months old then, and we planted a mahogany seedling at the TESDA complex in Taguig. Now, just like TESDA, it has grown into a full-grown tree with the promise of providing shade and greenery. Mr. President, my 5 years at TESDA allows me to look back and see the importance of TVET in sustaining the future of our industries and giving our people the choices they need to attain a better life. And now, taking stock of our TESDA experiences, we are continuously toiling in the legislative to make TVET work for our people. We in the Senate have always been hand in hand, pushing for legislations supportive of TVET. And I'm very thankful, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, for all your fervent support and for rallying behind landmark legislations like Republic Act Number 11230 or the Tulong Trabaho Act, Republic Act 10968 or the Philippine Qualifications Framework or PQF Law, and Republic Act Number 10931 or or the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act. I believe that these new laws will be instrumental in our continuing efforts to reduce, if not eliminate, the social bias against TVET and make its impact felt in dealing with unemployment. Mr. President, just outside the session hall, in line with our desire to raise the image of TVET, we are showcasing the success stories of TechVoc graduates through a week-long exhibit. Maraming salamat sa ating mga kasamahan na nagpunta kanina, Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator Cynthia Villar, at nakita po namin, na-experience namin yung pong mga in-exhibit doon, lalo na yung paghahanda natin sa Industry 4.0. Meron po hanggang ngayon dito sa ating second floor, yung mechatronics, yung pong simulator para sa mga backhoe operation, yung simulator maging sa pagwe-welding, etc. Mr. President, isa po sa nais kong banggitin si Cherry S. Galit, 28 taong gulang at taga-Pandacan, Manila. Mula po si Cherry sa isang broken family. Pinangarap po niyang makapagtrabaho sa hotel pero hindi po siya na-hire dahil sa kawalan ng proper training. Kaya naisip po niyang mag-TESDA. Inamin po ni Cherry na dumana siya ng panghahamak dahil sa kanyang pag-aaral sa TESDA. Kumuha si Cherry ng kursong Food and Beverage Services NC2 noong 2014 at noong 2015 ay kumuha naman siya ng kursong Bartending NC2. Habang nag-aaral po si Cherry sa TESDA, nakapag-tie up po ang isang beverage company sa TESDA noong 2014. Nakasama po si Cherry sa programa. Pagka-graduate po niya, nakatanggap siya ng isang package na mobile bar. Dito na po nagsimula ang kanyang negosyo mula sa zero capital. At mula sa 5,000 na una nitong kita, nakaipon po siya hanggang nakabili ng pangalawang mobile bar. Hanggang naging 3 po ito sa kasalukuyan. Sa ngayon, isa na po siyang professional bartender, negosyante, at may-ari ng sikat na J-Cab iMix mobile bar sa Maynila. Mr. President, I thank Cherry and all TechVoc graduates who shared their own narratives with nothing in return. Now, their authentic, personal, and passionate stories are influencing more and more young people to choose TVET, to dream, and to act. Their success stories create positive change through information and inspiration. Mr. President, we have put up this exhibit to bring the value of TVET to life by sharing these remarkable success stories. We hope to initiate, if not to culminate, a movement that puts premium on TVET. Inside committee room number 1, you can also witness our world-class TVET graduates demonstrating not only their skills, but also the products of their innovation in robotics, mechatronics, and graphic design. We choose these qualifications to emphasize the need to respond to the challenges of the 4th Industrial Revolution, where automation and artificial intelligence are becoming the norm more than the exception. May I share also, Mr. President, that I have learned about new technologies and product innovations in our neighboring countries. In Japan, for example, the worldwide race among companies to launch the first self-flying vehicle is taken seriously, as electronic giant NEC tests a drone-like prototype inside a cage in an Abico facility. The Japanese government intends to trailblazing and leading the flying car industry. They are poised at making fashionable flying cars normal city rides by the 2030s, Mr. President. It is to this kind of international technological competitive innovation challenge that TVET and our whole educational system, for that matter, must respond. I do hope, Mr. President, that as we celebrate today's National TechVoc Day, our attention and focus are directed towards preparing our graduates in general, not just our TechVoc graduates, into this new work environment, or rather, new world of work. For TVET, as for our whole education system, a curriculum revolution is an imperative to respond to the demands of the 4th Industrial Revolution, or 4IR. Imagine developing skills for assembly line jobs, only to realize that the available jobs already goes beyond mere competing with robots to doing robotics. That is to say, controlling, programming, and yes, even designing and constructing robots. In 2011, the famous John Seeley Brown of the Xerox PARC Laboratory in Palo Alto, California, proposed the idea that the half-life of a skill is only 5 years. This means that half of what our students learn today will become obsolete 5 years from now. Mr. President, as your chairperson of the Committee on Higher Technical and Vocational Education, please allow me to share what else I have in mind to reform our education and training systems so that we can respond to the changing world of work. First, we believe that we must link training with industries, especially on qualifications pertaining to the use of innovative or additive technologies. This is also a call to our tertiary education institutions to prioritize offering courses responsive to 4IR. Mr. President, most disciplines available around the country are largely the easy-to-offer and inexpensive programs that do not require as much investment. As a result, we have an oversupply of graduates who cannot pass their respective licensure exams or get immediate employment. But access to quality is more troublesome, Mr. President. In the licensure examination for teachers, for example, or LET alone, the passing rate averages only 30% in the last 10 years, which means that only 3 out of the 10 examinees would pass the LET. Second, Mr. President, apprenticeship or enterprise-based training is the preferred training model in many parts of the world, and we need to press hard to make it the norm in TVET and in higher learning. Mr. President, lack of sufficiency in company or on-the-job training is partly blamed why some K-12 graduates are not satisfactorily geared up to work. According to JobStreets.com's 2018 Fresh Graduate Report, only 24% of the employers from manufacturing, professional services, retail machinery and equipment, and BPO industries in the Philippines are ready to hire K-12 graduates. Data on work-based training from TESDA reinforced the observation that lack of training in authentic work environments deepen job skills mismatch in the country. TESDA's apprenticeship program and dual training system, or DTS, produced only 620,199 graduates, or only 5.12% of the 12,110,210 graduates of TVET from 2010 to 2018. In this regard, we'd like to file a measure called Training sa Kumpanya para sa Garantisadong Trabaho of 2019 to incorporate the existing enterprise-based training programs administered by TESDA and expand the provision of training programs being implemented within companies, which can be a mix of workplace training and classroom-based learning. Along this line of thinking, Mr. President, we wanted and we must also attract the best and the brightest Filipino students to TVET. It is our belief that not all young Filipinos should go to college. TVET is an excellent career option nowadays, as evident in the 25 success stories being showcased in the exhibit just outside this session hall. Third, Mr. President, we must focus training on science and innovation so that our graduates can keep up with workplace changes. We can do this by creating more or helping our best TESDA technology institutions morph into centers of excellence and are recruiting trainers who understand industry, business, and workplaces. Last but not the least, Mr. President, we must increase our commitment to web-based training. It will not only widen access or resolve the perennial problem of absorptive capacity in TVET, but will also instill independent learning among Filipinos, the foundation of lifelong learning. Moreover, it will develop the skills required in our fast-becoming Uber economy, as manifested by the call center jobs and telecommuting or work-from-home setups. Mr. President, we are pushing for the Freelancers Protection Bill, or Senate Bill number 155, precisely to help our people deal with the changing world of work or on a more varied types of work. These are pockets of success that indicate that these actionable points, this representation raised, are doable, Mr. President. For example, the Concepcion Vocational School in Tarlac was recently awarded with a gold accreditation by the Asia Pacific Accreditation and Certification Commission, or APACC. It ranked 4 among all accredited institutions in the Asia Pacific. Mr. President, I saw with my 2 eyes the transformative power of technical vocational education and training. This is the reason why I repeat the success stories of our graduates over and over again, to the point of being repetitious until it becomes part of our people's consciousness. Hence, I challenge our TVET workers, especially our TESDA employees and officials who are present here today, continue to pour your hearts out to the cause of TVET. I always believe that it all starts from aspiring higher and striving harder. We should take part in the struggle, all of us. Let us applaud the success of our TechVoc graduates because they bring us hope. Listen to the message they give to every Filipino youth. If we overcome our obstacles, so you can. Happy National TechVoc Day to everyone. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa lahat ng ating esteemed colleagues. God bless us all.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Right.
Congratulations to TESDA. Happy birthday.
Did you know who was the principal sponsor and author of the TESDA law in 1992 in the 92 Congress?
Please educate us, Mr. Senate President.
Senator Boy Herrera.
Senator Boy Herrera.
All right.
Shepherded by...
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Dulon has a great description of him, but I'd rather not say. But
He was
a great man.
Secretary of Labor before.
Yes, Secretary
During
of
that
Labor.
time, yeah, when this was passed.
And the senator
Senator
representing
Dulon.
Cebu and Bohol, actually one of our Bisaya senators, Mr. President. Very hardworking senator at that. Mr. President, we have other guests in the gallery with us today. We have Mayor Tessa Constantino and the barangay and municipal officials of LGU Malungon, Sarangani Province. We have also with us Governor Digamo of Negros Oriental, together with Mayor Gloria Ronquillo of Santo Tomas, Batangas, and Mayor Joy Salvame of Ibaan, Batangas, Mr. President.
We would like to welcome all our guests to the Senate this afternoon. Thank you.
I forgot to refer the speech, Mr. President, of the good gentleman to the Committee on Labor as primary committee and higher technical vocational as secondary committee, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, so moved, so referred.
Mr. President, another distinguished colleague of ours would like to avail of the privilege hour. May we recognize Senator Christopher Bongo to deliver his privilege speech.
Senator Christopher Bongo is recognized.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand on a matter of privilege today not just to answer a personal attack against me, but to defend the interests of the Filipino people. After this speech, I humbly decline to answer any questions or yield the floor for interpellations, as that would merely squander away the precious time we have in this esteemed institution. Thank you very much. Mr. President, ang tunay na epektibong burokrasya ay nagsisilbing tulay ng mga tao sa mga serbisyo ng gobyerno. Hindi ito dapat parang EDSA na maliban sa traffic na, napakarami pa nitong pasikot-sikot na nakakahilo, nakapang-iinit ng ulo at lumulustay sa buwis na binabayaran ng Pilipino. Halimbawa, nung assistant pa lang po ako ni Pangulong Duterte, ng mayor pa po siya ng Davao, saksi na po ako sa lahat ng paghihirap at sakripisyo na kailangang harapin ng Pilipino para lamang maka-avail ng medical assistance mula sa gobyerno. Nag-umpisa po ito, ayan, sa Davao City po yan. Nagpumipila po sa labas ng City Hall. Alam niyo po, doon ko po natutunan, ang daming lumalapit sa kanya ng mga taga-Surigao, taga-Bukidnon, na hindi po taga-Davao. Ang parating sinasabi ng COA, bawal daw gamitin yung pera ng taga-Davao sa ibang Alam niyo, narinig ko, sinabihan ako ni Mayor Duterte. Sabi niya, Bong, kung uupo ako dito as mayor at hindi ako makakatulong sa aking kapwa Pilipino, hindi na ako babalik dito bukas. Sabi niya, hanapan mo ng paraan, bayaran mo yan, bahala ka saan mo kunin yung pera, basta bayaran mo yan. Hindi ko matiis na hindi ko matutulungan yung mga Pilipino. So, nung naging Pangulo po si Pangulong Duterte, sabi ko, ano bang pwede nating itulong sa ating mga kapwa na mapabilis yung serbisyo na huwag natin silang pahirapan. So, dahil dito, wala pang isang opisina noon kung saan maaring dumulog ng tulong ang ating mga kababayan. Kailangan pa nilang pumila sa napakahaba at magkakahiwalay pang ahensya ng gobyerno. Paminsan, aabutin pa ng ilang oras sa ilalim ng init ng araw. Iiwanan pa ang kanilang probinsya at pupunta sa syudad para lang mabigyan ng tulong mula sa gobyerno. Gabundok na forms ang kailangan din nilang sagutan, sangkatutak na requirements ang dapat ipasa para laman sa mumunting tulong mula sa gobyerno na ang totoo ay pera naman talaga nila. Sa pagsunod pa lamang ng napakahabang proseso ng pag-request ng medical assistance sa na magkahiwalay na ahensya, ubos na ang oras at pera sa pamasahe, ubos yung panahon, ubos yung pamasahe sa kakapila habang pumapatak po ang bill nila. At ilan pa sa mga epal na politiko ginagamit ang paghihirap ng mga tao sa kanilang pansariling interes sa pamamagitan ng endorsement letters na nagkiklaim ng credit sa mga tulong na ibinibigay ng gobyerno sa mga tao. Kapag kulang ang maipon ng assistance mula sa ahensya ng gobyerno tulad ng PCSO, DSWD at discount mula sa PhilHealth, pupunta naman sila sa mga opisina o bahay ng mga public officials. Tingnan nyo po kung nag-usap po kami ni Senator Gatchalian. Tingnan nyo po yung sa PAC, dyan sa baba mismo ng Senado. Tingnan nyo gaano kahaba ang pila na humihingi ng tulong sa pagpapagamot dyan sa labas ng Senado. Nakakaawa. Kaya nung nag-usap kami ni Senator Win Gatchalian, Majority Leader Mig Zubiri, Senate President Soto, sila Senator Villar, sila Senator Batotol, Angara at iba pang mga kasamahan natin dito sa Senado, sumang-ayon sila na dapat maisaayos ang Public Assistance Center ng Senado. And in fact, ongoing na po ang planong renovation sa gusaling ito at nag-request na po ang Senate PAC kung pwedeng i-adapt ang konsepto ng Malasakit Center dito, isang konsepto na nais ko ikwento sa inyo ngayon. Uulitin ko po para sa ating mga kababayang nakikinig, pera po ninyo ito, hindi ito ng pera ng sinumang opisyales, pera ito ng gobyerno na dapat lang ibalik sa inyo sa pamamagitan ng maayos na serbisyo. Hindi ko mapigilang mahabag ng puso ko sa mga kababayan nating nagdurusa dahil may karamdaman silang pinapasan na hindi nila mapagamot dahil sa kakulangan ng pera. Tulad niyan po sa iba't ibang hospital. Nang maging special assistant po ako ng Pangulo, ganun pa rin. Araw-araw, napakarami pong Pilipino ang lumalapit sa aming opisina, pumipila sa ilalim ng init ng araw, nagmamakaawa dahil hirap na hirap silang humanap ng tulong mula sa gobyerno. Sa mga kadahilanang ito, nabuo ang konsepto ng Malasakit Center. The program was designed to streamline and expedite the delivery of medical services to Filipinos, especially to those who need them most. Hindi po ito logo ng politiko. Wala pong bongo na logo dyan. It is one of the solutions of the Duterte administration to provide quick and quality access to healthcare to all Filipinos, regardless of their age, sex, ethnic background, religion, and let me emphasize this, regardless of their political affiliation. These offices, which are hosted by government hospitals all over the country, and in fact po sa Valenzuela, isa po sila Mayor Gatchalian na gumawa rin po ng Malasakit Center doon mismo sa hospital nila. It serves as a one-stop shops where Filipinos can seek aggregated financial assistance provided by various government agencies. With the installation of proper queuing system and express lanes for senior citizens and people with disabilities in these offices, or PWD, Filipinos will no longer have to endure long lines and fill up piles and piles of forms just to get medical assistance from the government. Currently, there are 41 successfully established and fully operational Malasakit centers across the country, 18 in Luzon, including 2 in Bicol region, 13 in Visayas, 10 in Mindanao, and the Duterte administration plans to establish more in the months to come, even pending legislation and institutionalization of these centers. Kung maisabatas na po ito, magkakaroon na po ng isang Malasakit Center sa bawat public hospital, sa bawat probinsya sa bansa. Inuulit ko, isa lang po ang layunin ng opisinang ito, ang mapabilis ang pagbibigay ng medical assistance ng gobyerno sa mga Pilipinong nangangailangan nito kahit saan man sila sa bansa. Walang labis, walang kulang, pera nyo po ito, ibinabalik lang po sa inyo. If only our politicians will start paying attention, they will see how Malasakit Center program has assisted so many of our countrymen and women. Ito po, isa na rin po sa kanila si Prince Tyron. Isa po siyang 11-month-old na sanggol na ipinanganak na premature at kinakailangan ma-confine sa intensive care unit or ICU ng isang ospital sa Pasay. Dahil sa napakalaking hospital expenses, dumulog po siya sa Malasakit Center ang ama ni Prince Tyron para makakuha ng medical assistance sa gobyerno. Hindi po natin siya binigo dahil po sa Malasakit Center na ibsan po ang napakalaking gastusin nila sa hospital. Kaya naman po nakakalungkot isipin na sa kabila ng magandang hangarin ng programa, kamakailan lamang ay nakarinig po tayo ng mga mema na politiko na tila kailangan ng tulong ng Malasakit Center para mapagamot ang dumi nilang utak. Kesyo partisan daw ang Malasakit Center, kesyo ginagamit daw natin ang opisinang ito para sa politika. Malaking kasinungalingan po ang mga ito. Pasensya na po kayo, Bisaya po ako. Una po sa lahat, hindi po pamumulitika ang magmalasakit sa ating mga kababayan. Hindi po pamumulitika ang kagustuhan nating mapadali ang pagbibigay ng tulong sa mga Pilipino. Hindi po pamumulitika ang pagbabalik sa mga kababayan natin ng perang sa kanila naman talaga. Pera po ng tao yan, sa kanila yan. Bakit ba natin ipagkait ang kanilang buwis para mapagamot ang kanilang karamdaman? Ikalawa, magbigay kayo ng isang kaso sa akin na pinagkaitan ng tulong ng Malasakit Center dahil salungat ang kanilang posisyon o politika sa gobyerno. Wala pong pinipiling benepisyo ang Malasakit Center. Ito ay serbisyo para sa lahat. Kahit na sino, basta Pilipino, qualified ka. Maaari kang lumapit sa opisinang ito para maibigay ng gobyerno ang tulong na kailangan mo. Matagal na rin pong ipinagbawal ang maglagay ng mukha ng sinumang politiko sa programa. Hindi po namin ito gawain para sa kaalaman ng iba. Matagal na po namin ipinagbawal ito sa Davao. Pinapagalitan at pinagsasabihan pa nga po ako ni Pangulo noon kung may makita siyang kahit anumang pangalan ng politiko sa tabi ng programa o serbisyong pampubliko. Yung mga proyekto po ni Pangulo sa Davao as Mayor, Congressman noon, walang through the initiative po ni Mayor Duterte. Gusto ni Presidente na mabilis ang tugon sa lahat ng mga nangailangan. Ito rin po ang hangarin ko. Mr. President, hindi rin po ito Bongo Center. Nagkataon lang po ito na brainchild ko po itong programang ito. Ako lang po ang naatasan ng ating Pangulo para pangunahan ang programang ito. Inuulit ko, hindi akin yan at hindi para sa akin yan. Yan ay para sa lahat ng Pilipino. At hindi ko pa rin po maintindihan sa hinahaba-haba ng panahon at dinadami-dami ng nagmamagaling at nagmamatalino sa gobyerno, hindi man lang nila naisip na kailangan ito ng taong bayan. Kailangan pa ng isang probinsyano katulad ni Pangulong Duterte, nila Secretary Mike Dino, at Bongo para maibigay ang simpleng solusyon sa ito ng taong bayan. Hindi po gaya ng politikong bumabatikos sa Malasakit Center, wala po tayong balak maging epal. In fact, wala ngang honorable ang pangalan ko. Tingnan niyo po ang pintuan ko sa opisina. Pagkaupo ko, sabi nila, bawal daw yan, na ba't ganun lang. Kasi po, tingnan niyo po kay Pangulong Duterte, pansinin niyo ang kanyang, wala pong His Excellency. Pinapatanggal niya po yan. Ako po, wala pong honorable ang nakalagay sa mga opisina ko. Tingnan ninyo ang pintuan na yan. Ayaw kong sumikat at magpasikat. Tapos na po ang eleksyon, panalo na ako. Gusto ko lang magtrabaho, ginagawa lamang natin ang maayos ang trabaho ng gobyerno. Kaya nga po, isinusulong kong maisabatas ito sa tulong po ninyo para hindi lang nakadepende ang pondo sa mga politiko at kung sino man na nakaupo sa Malacanang. Ikatlo, ang Malasakit Center Program ay isang mekanismo lamang ng gobyerno upang pabilisin ang pagbibigay ng assistance sa mga Pilipino. Isa itong one-stop shop para sa mga humihingi ng tulong mula sa PCSO, PhilHealth, DSWD, and other agencies do not fund their operations. It is the public hospitals with the help of LGUs that finance their establishments. In malasakit centers, the concerned government agencies retain and run their own medical assistance programs. The center only simplifies the process and eases the burden on the patients. At ang nag-a-assess ay ang qualified social worker. Walang kinalaman ang malasakit center sa desisyon ng agencies na tumutulong. Ang kaibahan lamang, hindi na mahirapan ang mga kababayan natin dahil sa iisang opisina lamang sila pupunta, nasa isang bubong para sa government assistance at di na po sila lalayo sa mga hospital para makakuha ng tulong dito. Panghuli, ang may nagsasabi po na hindi raw epektibo ang malasakit center dahil may mga nagrereklamo daw na hindi sapat ang assistance na naibibigay. This is, in fact, the very reason why we would like to institutionalize the Malasakit Center program through a proposed measure we filed just last month. Ito po yung Senate Bill 199, Malasakit Center Act of 2019. We acknowledge that the program may be in work in progress. While there may have been birth pains in these operations, mas marami po itong natutulungan kesa po nagrereklamo. Kaysa dumada lamang po tayo at sayangin ang buwis na ibinabayad sa atin ng Pilipino, magtulungan na lang po sana tayo para maipasa ang Malasakit Center Act, gawin mas maayos ang proseso at mas marami pang Pilipino ang makinabang dito. Nais ko rin po humingi ng paumanhin sa isang congressman dyan at sa iba pang bumabatikos sa inisyatibong ito ng gobyerno. Kung plano po ninyong humingi ng tulong para sa pagpapapogi, hindi po ito nagbibigay ng tulong ang PCSO at Malasakit Center sa pagpapaganda at sa pagpapagawa ng muka. Under PCSO's program, the agency accepts requests for hospitalizations, dialysis, medicines, except maintenance and cosmetic purposes. Klaruhin ko lang po, hindi po tinatanggap ng PCSO ang mga request to fund aesthetic enhancements or any cosmetic purposes. Gusto man namin kayong tulungan. Hindi po yan parte ng medical concerns na ginagawa ng assistance ng PCSO. Wala rin pong legal basis ang pagtulong sa pag-repair ng inyong muka. At prangkahin ko na rin po kayo, your image is beyond repair. Hindi po ikakaayos ng pagmumuka ninyo ang pagkontra ninyo sa interes ng mga Pilipino. Mr. President, gusto kong sabihin kay Congressman Edsel Lagman na turingan pa man din siyang public servant pero hindi niya pinag-aaralang mabuti ang sinasabi niya. Hindi niya man lang naisip na isa ang kanyang probinsya sa kauna-unahang nakinabang sa programang ito ng gobyerno. Nandoon pa ang anak niya na si Vice Governor Grex Lagman sa launching ng Malasakit Center sa Albay para mag-witness sa proyektong ito. Ano na lamang ang sasabihin ng mga Bicolano kapag nalaman nila ang mismong congressman nila ang bumabatiko sa programang tumutulong sa kanila upang malunasan ang kanilang karamdaman? Ano na lamang ang sasabihin ng Bicolano kapag nalaman nilang walang malasakit sa kanila ang mismong representative nila sa gobyerno? Congressman Lagman, do not be anti-poor. Ang pera ng tao nararapat lamang ibalik sa tao. Mahiya kayo sa mga constituents ninyo. Mahiya kayo sa mga milyon-milyong Pilipinong natutulungan ng programang ito. Congressman Lagman, balita ko, pinapapunta mo sa bahay mo ang mga tao para mag-avail ng benefits at assistance. Andoon sa loob ng hospital ang pasyente, papapuntahin mo sa iyo para ipamuka sa kanila, ikaw mismo ang tumutulong. Nasa hospital na, pinapahirapan mo pa. Pasensya na, pero hindi ganyan ang asal ng isang totoong lingkod bayan. Hindi ganyan ang serbisyo sa tao. Tingnan niyo, yan yung referral ng kanyang staff. Bakit kailangan pa nating mag-referral, pumunta pa sa bahay at humingi ng tulong? Pera nila yan. Pumunta na lang kayo sa Malasakit Center. May iba ring mga politiko dyan, tulad niya, na nagbibigay ng endorsement at humingi ng endorsement galing sa barangay leaders bago pa tumulong. Now, that is partisan politics. Never po ako nagre-require ng ganyan. Never ko pinagpipilian ang taong tutulungan ko. Ang Malasakit Center nasa ospital na mismo. Bakit pa gustong pinapahirapan at pinapapunta sa iba't ibang lugar na malalayo ang may mga sakit nating mga kababayan? Dagdagan pa ba natin ang pasakit sa kanila? Hindi yan ang trabaho natin. Ang trabaho natin ay matulungan sila, alagaan sila at magpakita ng tunay na malasakit. Kaya sobrang nakakalungkot na ako pa ang inaakusahan ng partisan political activity. Minsan hindi ako humingi ng kahit anong endorsement, identification, or privilege card, or ID para sa mga taong tinutulungan ko. Lahat ng pwedeng matulungan, handa akong tumulong. Ang hirap kasi sa iba, hahanapan pa ng mali ang isang bagay na nakakatulong para lang sa pansarili nilang politika. Basta ikaw ay Pilipino, qualified ka po sa Malasakit Center. Congressman Lagman, ganyan ba ang nagagawa kapag matagal na sa politika? Dahil po ba yan sa tagal na ninyo sa politika, kaya manhid na kayo para maramdaman ang isang dekada ng problema ng inyong kababayan at ng Pilipino ukol sa tulong medikal? Kung gusto mo, palitan mo na lang ito ng sarili mong programa. Pangalanan mo ito ng Manhid Center, Maramot Center. Bagay na bagay yan sa kawalan mo ng malasakit sa ating mga kababayan. Ako ay isang simpleng probinsyano lamang po, isang hamak na taga Davao at taga Mindanao na binigyan ng pagkakataon na magserbisyo. Pero para sa lahat ng Pilipino, kahit sino man, iniintindi at tinutulungan ko. Minsan lang po ako dadaan sa mundong ito. Kaya gagawin ko ang tama, gagawin ko ang aking trabaho, ipaglalaban ko, maisabatas ang panukalang ito, maisasaayos ang mga programa ng gobyerno at mas makatulong tayo sa lahat ng Pilipino. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Mr. President, we'd like to recognize, I believe Senator Sherwin was ahead, and Senator,
These are...
Mr. President, the good gentleman who gave the speech, Senator Bongo, had requested not to accept any interpellations today, or but these are manifestations, I believe. Mr.
Yes,
President.
there are manifestations.
Yes.
We can recognize them.
So
If
what I
it's to
saw
interpellate
initially...
the speaker,
Yes,
the speaker has done a Miriam Santiago.
Yes,
She has,
Mr. President.
she has done that so many times. When she stands and before she speaks, she doesn't
Yes.
want any interpellation.
And we respect
Just
that,
finishes
Mr.
her
President.
speech.
We respect that. We just, on what I've seen so far, Senator Gatchalian,
Perhaps manifestations from Senator Gatchalian,
Senator Ontiveros, and
Pimentel,
Senator Bato.
De La Rosa, and Tolentino. In that order, you list it down, Mr. Majority Leader. Senator Gatchalian, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a brief manifestation, Mr. President. Una-una sa lahat ho, gusto kong magpasalamat sa Senator Bongo at sa iba't ibang ahensya po ng ating pamalaan. DOH, DSWD, PCSO, PAGCOR, and the other government agencies. Dahil kamakailan lang po ay nag-set up po ang Malasakit Center sa Valenzuela, sa aming primary hospital. At sumasang-ayon po ako sa sinabi ni Senator Bongo, isa po sa mga naranasan ho namin sa Valenzuela, yung pagpunta po ng iba't ibang kababayan natin na nanggagaling po sa iba't ibang lugar, tulad po ng Ubando, May Kawayan, as far as Caloocan, Malabon, pumupunta po sa aming ospital, pero dahil hindi ho sila taga Valenzuela, hindi ho namin matulungan. Pero kahit nandoon pa ho dahil nandoon na ho sila sa aming ospital, gumagawa ho kami ng paraan. Most oftentimes, personal na ho namin tinutulungan para po matulungan ho natin yung mga kababayan natin kahit na nanggaling ho sila sa ibang syudad. Kaya po itong Malasakit Center ho ay napakalaking bagay, hindi lang po para sa aming mga kababayan sa lungsod ng Valenzuela kung hindi nanggaling po sa ibang lugar
Ibang
na
lugar.
namasahe pa ho, naglakad, yung iba ay nangutang pa para lang po magamot o mapagamot ang kanilang sarili sa aming ospital. Kaya ito po ay, itong Malasakit Center ay hindi po tumitingin ng geographic location, hindi po tumitingin ng LGU, ang tinitingnan po yung taong nangangailangan po. Kaya napakalaking bagay po yan sa aming lungsod. At hindi lang ho para sa aming lungsod, kung hindi yung mga karatig bayan ho ng lungsod ng Valenzuela. At lastly ho, gusto ko rin ho magpasalamat kay Senator Villar, kay Senator Bongo, dahil finally ho, matututukan na ho yung renovation ng ating public assistance counter. Marami ho sa atin ay nakikita ho every morning, especially on Mondays, na napakahaba yung pila sa labas po ng Senate. Minsan umaabot po ng ilang metro. Ito po yung mga tao nang gagaling rin po sa iba't ibang lugar. Lumalapit ho sa atin, humingi po ng tulong. Pero dahil first come, first serve, talaga hong alas 4 ng umaga, pumipila na ho sila doon para lang ho makakuha ng tulong. At pag nakapasok ho sila sa ating sa Public Assistance Center, dahil po sa liit ng ating Public Assistance Center, marami ho sila kanila ay sa labas na ho ng center nakapila. Ang sabi ho sa akin ng head ng public assistance counter natin, at any given time, we will have 500 constituents who will come here seeking help. So with the support ni Senator Villar and Senator Bongo, finally maaayos na ho natin ito. Maluwag, may aircon, ang serbisyo po ay manggagaling sa Senado, hindi po sa individual na senador. Ito po ay institutional assistance na ibibigay po ng Senado para po sa mga kababayan natin nang galing pa ho sa malalayong lugar. So, maraming salamat. At dahil po sa utos at lambing ng ating Senadora, Senator Villar, DPWH po ang magpapagawa ho ng ating public assistance counter. Yan po ang tamis ng lambing ng ating Senadora. So muli, maraming salamat po,
Yes,
Mr.
but
President.
the manifestation you said about people going to Valenzuela instead of coming from different places does not speak well for the local officials and their places they come from. Di ba?
But
The same thing goes to Davao. The places around Davao, the local officials are doing nothing because they have to go to Davao to be assisted. No?
actually, Mr. President, we're restricted by the COA regulation that the funds of Valenzuela is exclusively for the constituents of Valenzuela. So, on our personal capacity, both me and the other local officials extend personal help to our constituents outside of Valenzuela. So, hindi naman ho namin pinapabayaan ho sila. Kaso lang ho, sa dami ho ng pumupunta, ay talagang pinagkakasya ho namin yung aming sariling pondo.
Correct. But as I said, does not speak well for the local officials of the other places. All right. Next was Senator Ontiveros, Majority Leader. Ontiveros, and then Pimentel, and then De La Rosa, Tolentino, Pacquiao.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too respect the privilege raised by the gentleman from Davao not to be interpolated after his privileged speech. However, Mr. President, in the spirit of interparliamentary courtesy, please allow me just to make a few points about Representative Edsel Lagman. We may agree or disagree with the points that he makes, pero siguro naman, tulad ng bawat isa sa atin dito sa Senado, nag-aaral naman siya bago siya magsalita, though we may agree or disagree with what he says. In the same way, we may agree or disagree with what Representative Lagman says, pero hindi naman siguro siya anti-poor. At tulad din ng bawat isa sa atin dito sa Senado ay pro-poor din po siya. I make these points, Mr. President, not only out of interparliamentary courtesy, but also out of yung pag-recollect na nakasama ko rin po si Representative Lagman sa ilan sa mga importanteng legislative efforts ng Kongreso ng ating Republika. Kasama na po doon yung Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program extension with reforms program, yung reproductive health law, at iba pa. And in closing, Mr. President, I continue to look forward with our chair of the Senate Committee on Health to hearing his bill on the Malasakit Center, especially in the context of how it might be implemented in the context of the implementation of the Universal Healthcare Law. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Coco Pimentel is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to manifest my support for my good friend Senator Bongo, as well as to manifest my support and identification with the main arguments in his speech. Yung Malasakit Center po ay isang magandang idea, one-stop shop as far as health is concerned. And should there be birth pains in such a concept, it is not proper to attack or criticize the person who conceptualized the idea. Hindi niya po kasalanan yun. I mean, dapat nga purihin siya at naisip pa at na-operationalize yung ganyang klaseng idea na one-stop shop for health concerns for our people. So let me congratulate Senator Bongo for his privileged speech and then advise him to just keep his cool and relax. And I'm not identifying with the part of his speech where he says that Congressman Lagman can no longer be saved by surgery or cosmetic surgery. I disagree with that portion of the speech, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
I'm tempted to make a comment, but I will prevent myself. Senator De La Rosa is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am ready to interpolate the good gentleman from Davao City and Davao Oriental. But since he declined to be interpolated on, so for the record, I must as well manifest my malasakit to my kababayan, the good gentleman from Davao City and Davao Oriental, and support the substance of his privileged speech. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Tolentino.
Mr. President, after having heard the privileged speech of my seatmate, I commiserate, I empathize, I sympathize with his feelings right now. Kagaya po ng sinabi ni Senator Pimentel, gumawa ka na nga ng isang konsepto na makakatulong, ay ikaw pa yung sinisiraan. I heard the words from his speech, integrated. I heard the word likewise, efficient. Mr. President, I've seen Senator Bongo work. Nagiging bombero na nga ito, pumupunta sa mga sunog, pagkatapos ng sunog. Ngayon po, yung konsepto niya parang traffic enforcer. Tina-traffic niya yung mga iba't ibang ahensya related to health services para magkaroon ng isang integrated delivery of health services. Let me remind our dear colleagues here that we have a provision in our Constitution, Article 13, Section 2 to be exact. The state shall adopt an integrated and comprehensive approach to health development. Mr. President, having seen the Malasakit Center since its inception in Cebu City last year or early this year, nakita ko po na naging 41 na ito. Wala pa naman hong nagrereklamo. At ang alam ko po, yung susunod na Malasakit Center ay sa amin ng lalawigan ng Cavite. During the course of the campaign, Mr. President, I visited a small municipality in Tarlac. Nakita ko po yung isang opisina ng mayor, wala lang po yung mayor doon, the municipality of Moncada in Tarlac. Ang kanya pong sekretarya, isang pharmacist, hindi nurse, pharmacist. Pagpasok ko po dun sa opisina ng mayor sa Moncada, Tarlac, kahit wala po si Mayor doon, sinamahan ako ng municipal administrator. Nagulat po ako, lo and behold, sa halip po ng mga libro, sa halip po ng mga plake, ang nakalagay po doon mga istante na mga gamot. Napakaraming gamot. I'm sure, hindi naman to expired. Ganon din po sa isang maliit na lungsod sa Nueva Ecija, the city of Muñoz. Ang lahat po ng ating mga local officials, with due respect to the words coming from the Senate President, ay nakatuon sa health services. Subalit sa ginagawa po ng Malasakit Center, pinag-iisa na po ito. One-stop shop, tinatraffic kung saan pupunta, sa PhilHealth, sa Lung Center, sa Heart Center, at sa mga regional health centers ng ating DOH. Kaya nga po, nakikiisa po ako sa kalungkutan kung binabatikos si Senator Bongo dahil tama po yung konsepto, lalong-lalo na ang ating Senado ay nagtayo ng isang bagong committee sa Sustainable Development. Ang Sustainable Development Goal number 3 na kasama pong sinusulong ng ating bansa, I quote, "Good health and well-being, ensuring healthy lives, and promoting the well-being for all ages is essential to sustainable development." I do hope, Mr. President, that Sustainable Development Goal number 3 is one of the prime missions and the vision of the good senator from Davao City in espousing the Malasakit Center Bill. Yun lamang po, Mr. President. Maraming salamat po.
Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a manifestation, Mr. President, to support the speech of Senator Bongo. Masakit lang isipin, Mr. President, na ang programa na para sa mga mahihirap, tapos may mga tao na kumokontra, dapat, hindi ko maintindihan yung mindset ng mga politiko dito sa Pilipinas, Mr. President. Kasi, pag maganda yung ginagawa para sa mga mahirap, dahil kalaban ka, kukontrahin ka. Nakakabuti naman sa taong bayan. Pagkakalaban ka, ganun. Kaya walang progreso, walang kaunlaran ang bansa natin dahil after ng administration ng isang leader, pag mapalitan siya, hindi ipagpatuloy yung programa niya na maganda para sa taong bayan. Pagkatapos naman ng isa, yung magandang programa niya, mahinto na naman, ibang programa na naman. Ganun yung mindset natin because kalaban, hindi ipagpatuloy kung maganda namang programa para sa mga mahirap na tao, bakit hindi natin suportahan? Kahit na ba, kung ang isang politiko, ang puso para talaga sa taong bayan o tumulong, kung maganda yung programa, dapat suportahan na lang. Halos lahat mula, ilang decades na tayo dito sa bansa na namumuno. Pero, ang problema, laging hindi maganda. Lahat ba yung mga programa ng mga nakaraang leaders hindi maganda? I think, Mr. President, na ganitong mga tao, dapat malaman ng taong bayan na ganitong mga politiko, ganitong mga laging nagkikriticize na magandang programa para sa mga mahirap. Ako man, pagdating sa mga mahirap, nasasaktan ako pagka binabatikos yung mga programa para sa kanila. Dahil dyan ako galing Dyan ako galing sa pagiging mahirap. Yung walang makain sa isang araw. Naranasan ko yun. Kaya ako, anumang narating ko, anumang pera, anong halaga ang nakamtan ko sa buhay, hindi mahalaga para sa akin yan. Ang importante, makatulong ako sa taong bayan, makatulong ako sa kapwa ko. And I am willing na maging mahirap ako para lang masamahan ko yung mga mahirap na tao. Hindi ako greedy person na itatago ko yung yaman ko. Pag namatay ako, hindi ko madadala yan. We came to this world naked and we will depart alone and naked. Wala tayong madalala. Iiwanan natin lahat yan. Sayang yung pera o kayamanan mo na nakatago lang sa bahay mo, sa bangko, kung hindi mo tinutulong sa kapwa mo. Pag namatay ka, iiwanan mo lang yun. Dapat ma-realize natin lahat yan. Yung mga politiko na nagsiservisyo na kumukontra palagi sa magandang advocacy, sa magandang programa para sa mga mahihirap, tumigil na kayo sa pagsiservisyo. Wala kayong kwenta para sa taong bayan. Nasa na, especially yung sinasabi, lagman, laging kumukontra yan. Kung ano mga programa maganda. Mr. President, makatestify talaga ako niyan na kumukontra para sa mga mahirap. Hindi ko alam kung against siya sa mga mahirap o para lang siya sumikat o kumontra ng magandang programa para sa ating gobyerno. Hindi ko malaman, pero ipaglalaban ko ang karapatan ng mga mahirap na tao kasi hindi ko lang sabihin yung mga tinutulong ko sa taong bayan, Mr. President, but lahat sana, and I'm praying to God na lahat ng mga mayaman, lahat na may pera, ambag-ambag tayo, kusang kawang-gawa na lang tayo, tulungan natin yung mga mahirap. Bigay tayo kung ano yung mga tulong na dapat magawa natin. Yung pera natin, hindi yan natin madala sa libingan. We will depart alone. That's it, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Senator Gordon is recognized before a comment from the chair.
Yeah, after this. If there's another question, I'd like to follow it up with my speech later. But go ahead.
Senator Lacson is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. My issue is not on the Malasakit Center. My concern is about the renovation or construction to be implemented by DPWH on the Public Assistance Center, which is a facility of the Senate. Not too long ago, the Supreme Court ruled that there will be no cross-border alignment of funds. So if it will be taken from the savings of DPWH, we may be violating Article 6, Section 25, Paragraph 5 of the Constitution, that there should be no realignment outside of the respective offices of the President, the Chief Justice, and the Senate President, and the Speaker of the House. That's my only concern, Mr. President.
Correct. Anyway, it has not been started yet. It's a proposal at the moment. We can perhaps study and review
Yes, Mr. President.
the concern.
May I suggest that if the Senate has savings, we might as well use that savings to construct the Public Assistance Center instead of relying on the DPWH, because we may be in transgression of the Constitution.
All right. Unless Senator Villar wishes to spend her own money to put it up.
That's most welcome, Mr. President.
Senator Villar, you're recognized.
Mr. President, Senate President, I was requested by Senator Win Gatchalian to ask the DPWH if they have such a budget for this kind of building. And the Secretary of the DPWH said that they have a budget for this kind of project. So they volunteered that they will help us. I don't know.
But,
I didn't
yes.
ask what kind of budget is this, but they said they have a budget for this kind of project.
All right.
We just asked, and
Yeah.
they said they have.
All
So
right.
maybe we can clarify what is this budget.
Yes, and not
Thank
only
you
that, we
very
can
much.
perhaps ask the Secretariat to review the point raised by Senator Lacson on cross-border expenditure. We might be having a problem with COA thereafter. So, before, is there any other comment on the matter, or Senator Gordon wishes to have the floor? Senator Gordon is recognized.
Mr. President, just a quick manifestation. I was taken aback by the statement made by Senator Gatchalian, and I think I think the Senate President also made a short quip on the matter. That is, a local government receiving patients from another municipality or another province is being denied, and if I take it right, by the COA, for treatment by the locality that where the patient was brought. I think, Mr. President, that's unconstitutional. And in fact, I think, Mr. President, we should not tolerate that, because no doctor is allowed to say no to a patient. No hospital is allowed to say no to a patient, although in reality those things happen. But at the very least, every time it rears its ugly head, that so-called position of COA, if indeed it is a position of COA, should be shut down right away, Mr. President. Hindi tama yun. Because otherwise, kung natamaan yung tao, may sakit yung tao, may dengue siya, pupunta siya doon sa city hospital, hindi tatanggapin, kawawa na talaga yung mga tao, Mr. President. I don't think that's legal, and I think that if there is such a thing as that COA dictum, I think we should try and amend the law so that it can be clarified without any doubt, Mr. President. That's all, Mr. President.
All right, the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last, my 2 cents on the matter, Mr. President. On the issue of the Malasakit Center, we welcome the initiative of Senator Bongo to put up a Malasakit Center here. As you know, so many people visit our offices every day asking us for help. And this Malasakit Center, being a one-stop shop, is a welcome development for our constituencies here in the Senate, as well as the country. My only objection is that he has not placed one yet in Bukidnon, so I'm hoping that Senator Bongo will place one in Bukidnon. Malayo po yung Cagayan de Oro sa Bukidnon, and we hope that he could also have one in his future programs for the Malasakit Center. On the issue of Senator Pacquiao on the difficulty of implementing programs as a public servant, it's really true, Mr. President. I think that is the situation we're found in many times. Pag may ginawa po tayong maganda, sabihin nila, epal. Naalala ko po yung pinaglaban natin yung pamilya, pinaglaban natin po ang hustisya pamilya ni Acho Castillo. And I remember our hearings with Senator Lacson, together with all our colleagues here, wherein we were able to find out and ferret the truth of what really happened. Mr. President, the hearings alone weighed in heavily on was given a lot of weight during the proceedings by the DOJ in the courts of law where these cases were filed. And yet, when I was being interviewed on radio, nung pinatay ko po yung cellphone ko, nakikinig pa ako sa radyo, hindi ko nababanggitin kung sino reporter. Ang sabi po ng reporter, wala yan, mga epal yan. Panay-epal lang yan, mga senador yan, ganyan. And you know what? What happened? We were able to file charges against these people. They're all in jail today because of the hearings of Senator Lacson and the resolution that I filed. We were able to pass a stronger anti-hazing law. And when I saw the partner of the reporter, I told straight to his face, I said, hindi epal yung ginawa namin. Ginawa namin ang ating katungkulan bilang mambabatas. And I think that's why it's difficult to be a public servant sometimes, because there's always a thin line, they say, with public service and being epal. But without casting any bad judgment on our colleagues, everything that we do here is for the betterment of our country, I so believe, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the speech, yes, Senator...
Before we refer the speech, and
Mr.
before I
President,
recognize the Minority Leader, let me just place on record that this is a public assistance center that was put up since September of 2001 during the incumbency of then Senate President Franklin Drilon. And we will retain it as a public assistance center, although, just like in the movies, may subtitle Malasakit. But it will remain as the Public Assistance Center. That is the proposal that I gave to the Senate Secretariat. We will just uplift or upgrade the Public Assistance Center so that it can perhaps show shades of Malasakit Center. That's about it. The original author of the Public Assistance Center is recognized, the Minority Leader, Senator
Mr.
Bruno.
President, I stand up in order to support the proposition, the warning of Senator Lacson that under the Constitution, a head of a department can realign savings and realign the same within the department. The Department of Public Works, under that provision of the Constitution, cannot realign its savings in order to spend for the infrastructure of a different department, which is the legislative. I just want to support the proposition of Senator Lacson. That is under the Constitution, something that must be examined because we can have problems with COA insofar as using DPWH funds are concerned. They may have funds, but precisely we have certain constitutional boundaries to observe. And one of them, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, is that the savings can be realigned for projects within the department, and the DPWH can realign its savings for projects in the executive branch, not in the Public Assistance Center of the Senate. Not that the Public Assistance Center does not need a new edifice. It needs, but maybe the Senate President can examine realigning savings in the budget of the Senate or appropriating funds in the 2020 budget in order to enhance the services of the Public Assistance Center rather than rely on the savings of the DPWH, which can put us into trouble. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I was almost starting to sense your message that Senator Lacson and Senator Drilon wishes that the Senate President look into the savings of the Senate. We will do that unless Senator Villar wishes to spend
Yes,
for it.
Mr. President. I wanted to mention, Mr. President, we have billionaires in the Senate who can easily finance the Senate Public Assistance Center.
Yes.
Even Senator Gatchalian
Yes.
can make it a
The son of a
Hotel?
very rich man.
Ano yung hotel?
Oh. And the wife,
Waterfront. Yeah,
Of
pwede
the wife.
going waterfront public center.
yes, and then the wife of the another rich man,
Yes, Mr.
the
President.
richest man in the Philippines.
That's correct, Mr. President.
Oh, see? And
Loose
then
change
just,
lang po
just
yan,
for the
Mr.
record, so that, we do not step on any toes here. I don't think we can say that there is parliamentary discourtesy as far as Senator Go is concerned because the congressman fired the first shot.
Yes, that's
Diba?
correct, Mr. President.
Siya namintas sa senador eh. So kung magsasagot yung senador at pintasan siya, sumagot lang yun.
Tama po yan, Mr. President.
All right. Senator Zubiri, yes.
We would be
Majority
doing the
Leader.
same, Mr. President. I don't expect any less from our colleagues. Mr. President, I move that we refer the speech of the gentleman from Davao to the Committee on Health. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. So referred.
Mr. President, before we have another distinguished gentleman who would like to deliver a privileged speech. Mr. President, before we recognize him, we'd just like to make an announcement that there will be an all-senators caucus tomorrow, August 28th, after the roll call, the agenda being the short LEDAC report that the Senate President will deliver to us and what we will be discussing in the LEDAC, as well as the request of Senator Pia Cayetano, because there are several bills in the Committee on
Ways and Means.
that
And
she would like
also,
to
not only
discuss.
bills, but also letters from different sectors that she would
Correct,
want to
Mr.
discuss with us.
Correct, Mr. President. So with that, Mr. President, now we would like to recognize the distinguished gentleman from Zambales, Mr. President, no other than our Blue Ribbon Committee Chair, Senator Richard Gordon.
Chairman of the Red Cross is recognized, Senator Richard Gordon.
Thank you very much for the advertising, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise today on a matter of collective privilege, although really it can come out by way of a manifestation, Mr. President. Last week, Mr. President, naguluntang ang buong bayan ng palabasin sa periodiko na papalabasin na si Antonio Sanchez. Now, Mr. President, this man, Sanchez, was convicted of nine counts of life imprisonment. Seven counts, Mr. President. Now, Mr. President, not only, sinabi ko 9 counts because there were 2 counts also of murder, Mr. President, against Nelson and Rickson Peñalosa, Mr. President. So, 9 counts of conviction ng life imprisonment, reclusion perpetua, Mr. President. Now, all of a sudden, because of a new law, I guess it slipped through the cracks, and this is where I argue for a budget for communication, effective communication. Because if the people don't know, we will all be hoodwinked. Madadaya tayo. Magkakaroon ng capricious, abusive conduct, Mr. President, itong mga taong nandito. Mr. President, can you please park the two gentlemen? They're behaving in a very, they're both, I know they love one another, but they don't have to embrace each other in front of me, Mr. President. I'm scandalized. Yes, I don't know why. I don't know why a lot of senators are attracted to Senator Gatchalian. Is it because siya ay anak ng mayaman?
No, because he's single.
Siya na ngayon ang mayaman. Okay. Having set aside this distraction, Mr. President, let me try and get back to my point, Mr. President. My point, Mr. President, is simply this. Kung bigla na lang tayong magugulantang at papalabasin ang isang preso na dapat talaga, mabulok na dapat siya sa kasamaan na kanyang ginawa, Mr. President, kailangan pigilan natin yan, Mr. President. Because yung batas na ginawa ay tila may pagkukulang. Pero bago ako umabot doon, sasabihin ko muna po, bakit po capricious? Sasabihin may good conduct. Una-una, in the same law, they were supposed to make and implementing rules and regulations na dapat meron silang computerized records. Up to now, Mr. President, there is no computerized records. Pagka-computerized ang record, Mr. President, malalaman na natin kung ilang taon na nagsisilbi yung taong yon at kung ano ang conduct na ginagawa niya sa preso, Mr. President. Kung wala yan, haka-haka, and nobody is ever going to find out whether in fact there was good conduct served, Mr. President. Kaya, to my mind, and I'm raising this point para to clarify and for that matter, amend the law if necessary na talagang kasama na yung creation of a law, of a provision that will make sure that there are statistical records, not only in Muntinlupa, Iwahig, or Davao, or other national penitentiaries, but also in the matter of all cities, all provincial jails, Mr. President, na pag may pumasok, automatically, it will go into the computer. It will prevent all kinds of abuses upon children who could be minors because they could be jailed and right away, mare-red flag yun, may bata sa city or sa provincial jail na nasasama na sa mga preso at makikita natin kung hinihiwala yon. This is very important, Mr. President, that we have to digitalize all records in the National Penitentiary as well as in all detention prisons, Mr. President. Now, if we do that, Mr. President, hindi tayo malulusutan na very capricious. Lalo na, hindi ko naman sinasabi lahat ng superintendent ng Muntinlupa. Mr. President, these people are always in the Muntinlupa prison and they interact with the prisoners. And even a lot of our jailers there have interacted to the point that they were enriching themselves by providing allowance of an operation of a franchise to hold a cell phone. Mr. President, I'm being facetious. Nagagamit nila yan. Or for that matter, binibigyan ng allowance at TV, katulad nung kay Mayor Sanchez, may TV. Flat iron TV. May air condition. Now, Mr. President, it really is a joke. You know, we keep talking about us as the representatives of the law here, but it is awful to allow this situation to continue. Did you have a comment, Mr. President?
Yes, I could not help but laugh because you said flat iron. You mean flat screen?
A flat screen, Mr. President. I'm sorry, Mr. President. I'm glad that you and I agree because we're both abiding husbands, Mr. President. We're used to flat irons, Mr. President. After the laundry, we have to use a flat iron. Thank you very much. We have to put in a little humor once in a while, and I'm glad that you did that, Mr. President, because I get overwhelmed by this emotional, that really challenges the emotion on how we as lawyers or we as lawmakers here are challenged by the fact that the intention of the law is totally set aside by the selfish, by the greedy, and by the corrupt, Mr. President. So it is important, Mr. President, that we address this as soon as possible, that we demand that they be created, and if necessary, we put a budget into the Bureau of Prisons and the prison system to the those in charge of provincial jails and city jails, that they should have a budget for such a thing. We can eradicate a lot of the negatives, a lot of the abuses by putting this in the law. Second, Mr. President, I'd like to commend the President because he came out with a statement saying that he will not allow this to be applied to Mr. Sanchez, Mr. President. I'm glad that he did that because it disabuses the mind of the people that there was a cabal that was already perpetrating them, especially when there were a lot of comments made on this issue by people in the cabinet, and there were certain people in the cabinet that lawyered for Mr. Sanchez, and I think he also made a statement that he is setting aside, he's not supporting the decision to put him out of prison because he has already earned good conduct discharge, Mr. President. Having said that, Mr. President, if we go to the law also, Mr. President, there seems to be a doubt, Mr. President, because the law, as done in 2014, speaks about preventive imprisonment, that they can deduct for preventive imprisonment. But it is quiet in the case of actual imprisonment in Muntinlupa. Heinous crimes is applied in the provision on preventive imprisonment, but it is not stated in the law itself on the actual service of sentence. So there could be a hiatus. Of course, we know every doubt shall be done in favor or shall favor the accused, Mr. President. I don't know if it really applies here because this is already a case of finito, nakakulong na yung tao. But however, when you have a law, every intent of the law will be applied to those who are accused or could be serving sentence. Now, I'm not ready to debate on that matter. I have not researched that extremely well. However, Mr. President, I would like to say that we must make a clarification on that, Mr. President. If it is meant to apply to those serving sentence, then let us say so, but there can be no doubt. And then also, Mr. President, on another point, and this is, I think, a very important point, we cannot allow the Muntinlupa superintendent or the superintendent of prisons to be the one to say he has served good conduct. It is subject to checks and balances like the Board of Pardons and Parole. Mr. President, are we aware? I'm sure in your long service in the country, Mr. President, you have seen people who are serving their time beyond their time. Tinatago yung karpeta. Yung karpeta is the record of the business. I'm sure the former Secretary of Justice, Senate President, Senator Dillon, is aware of that, na nawawala yung karpeta at nagsisilbi yung tao, hindi na lumalabas yung tao. O meron rin mga tao dyan na ayaw na lumabas, pero nandun pa rin sa loob ng kulungan dahil ayaw talaga nilang lumabas. So dapat palabasin niya mga yan. Also, Mr. President, meron mga kaso doon sa mga city jail, sa provincial jail, na nagsaserve sila, na under detention sila, dahil sa bagal ng ating mga kaso, na ating paglilitis ng kaso, ay nalampasan nila yung nakaugmang sentensya sa kanila, Mr. President. They have already passed the sentence that would have been given them. So, if you have all this data in a data bank that we can take a look at, we can prevent injustice to our people. Now, Mr. President, can you imagine the injustice done to the family of Eileen Sarmenta and Young Gomez, Mr. President? Aba, imagine, Senator Severi was very upset. A lot of us were very upset. I saw the Facebook accounts. Mr. President, let us look at the family. My God, this is a monster that perpetrated its evil deed and was having a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde mentality. I cannot forget him when he was being brought before the sentencing and he was having a rosary. He must have had 3 or 4 rosary. I'm just exaggerating. And he was talking about Mama Mary. But when he was convicted, he said expletives on the way out. You know, the PI word. How can you say that this guy can be rehabilitated? Now, Mr. President, I am not one who's saying that we should not give a second chance. I believe in that. But that has got to be proven beyond any doubt, Mr. President, to assuage and alleviate the suffering of the people whose families they snuffed happiness out of, Mr. President. And therefore, they should not be allowed to do so because the people are owed justice, Mr. President. And if they get away with this, kundi naging vigilant ang mga tao, kundi umalma lahat tayo mga senador dyan at mga tao, abay baka nakalusot. And I'm glad the President took action, Mr. President, because it clarifies that we are a government of laws and not of men, that justice must be done, though the heavens fall, Mr. President. Now, Mr. President, the other thing I would like to propose, again, here is that we help the Supreme Court make sure, and we're not going to interfere because this is a principle already that they're doing. I sit in the Judicial Bar Council, I also lobby with them to say, we have to really make the continuous hearings work because otherwise, Mr. President, yung sinasabi ko na nasa detention, ay matatapos na yung kanyang sentensya kung siya'y masisentensyahan, nahando pa siya nakakulong, hindi pa natatapos yung kanyang pagbibista. So having said that, Mr. President, I think I was quite clear and passionate about this matter, Mr. President. I will now withdraw and allow us to think it over and put it to the necessary. Sorry? Yeah, Senator, I will allow myself the privilege of answering the questions of our distinguished senators here, Mr. President.
Before before we recognize Senator Angara, we would just like to place on record, and I'm sure the minority leader would concur with me, because we were here when that law was passed, or that bill was passed. The original intention of Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago, who was the principal author and sponsor of that law, was to give credit really to those with good conduct and behavior. And then it was also a way to reduce the population in the beloved prisons, and then also to remove the aging convicts who have served us with good behavior and conduct. Now, we understand your point. We do agree that the karpeta should be automated, at hindi dapat yung Bucor ang tumitira ng listahan, di ba? It should be automated so that that will be reviewed. And that is the reason we filed proposed Senate Resolution 107, so that your committee can look into these amendments and include these amendments into the law, so that we will be able to solve this particular issue. Anyway, with that on record, we'd like to recognize Senator Angara.
Just to answer, Mr. President, this representation is your servant and the senator, so that we could indeed put in the necessary amendments. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Senator Angara is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to commend our chair of the Senate Committee on Justice, and we would like to place on record our support for his moves to review the law. I think he's right. There is an inconsistency between Section 1 of the law. For full disclosure, I was the author of Section 1, Mr. President. I filed House Bill 417 in 2013 on preventive imprisonment, which is not the case of Sanchez, because he has already been convicted by final judgment. But it is strange that a person who is entitled to the presumption of innocence will be given good conduct allowances, exempting those who are recidivists, meaning they are repeat offenders. But in the case of a convict, someone who's already been convicted by final judgment, they are allowed to avail of these good conduct allowances. Mas guilty nga sila, but they are given more allowance under the law. So there is a philosophical inconsistency, Mr. President. So I think it's well worth looking into. And I commend also our majority leader, because I read in the newspaper that he would file, or has filed, a bill that would exempt those who had been convicted of heinous crimes from the operation of the good conduct. I think that's also a worthwhile pursuit, Mr. President. But I would like to call the attention of the body on the Uniform Manual on Time Allowances, which has been formulated pursuant to a joint DILG-DOJ committee, because the Bucor is under the DILG, Mr. President.
No, DOJ.
DOJ, anyway, it's a joint DILG-DOJ committee, and they have defined good conduct as the non-violation of prison rules, blah, 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 blah. And the manual goes on to say that if the prisoner would violate any law, he would not be entitled to the good conduct allowances for the said month. Meaning, he would only forfeit his allowances for that month. So in the case, if we are overly technical, Mr. President, in the case of Sanchez, if he did that violation of terrible violation of placing drugs inside the statue of the Virgin Mary, he would only forfeit for that said month. For me, that is totally absurd. That is interpreting the law totally against the spirit of the Constitution, totally against the spirit of our philosophy on penal laws, Mr. President. So I think that is something that the good committee led by our very dynamic and eloquent chair should look into, Mr. President, because if we interpret these rules technically, he could commit all kinds of crimes. He could even kill somebody in prison, and he would only lose his good conduct allowances for the month. So I think we should have some qualifiers, if not in the law, then perhaps in the implementing rules, Mr. President. Just for the record, and again, I reiterate my support for the good gentleman, Mr. President.
There is another interpretation on that particular point, which is after your violation, you start fresh.
That's right.
That makes more sense to me, Mr. President.
you start fresh.
That makes more sense. But perhaps that should be enshrined to prevent any
Correct.
absurd interpretation.
Correct.
That is the purpose of laws, that is the purpose of rules, that is the purpose of institutions. As a great man once said, the life of the law is experience. It's not logic, Mr. President. So experience shows that a recidivist will tend to commit repeat violations. So someone who has been convicted of 7 life sentences certainly does not deserve to lose his good conduct allowances just for 1 month. He deserves to lose it. He deserves to start from zero
Fresh
or
start.
even from negative, Mr. President.
Correct. All right, the former Secretary of Justice is recognized.
May I just respond to the
With
manifestation?
the permission of Senator Drilon, who I already recognized. Senator Gordon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank Senator Angara for his kind comments and his brilliant, explanation on the object of the law. Far from it from my mind to challenge the purpose of the law as it was intended, but it's also within our recourses to make sure that we can find solutions where there were lapses in the law, intended or unintended. And in this particular case, I think it was unintended, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, I just have one manifestation that I'd like the Senate Minority Leader, as well as anybody here in the chamber. Would it be bad conduct, Mr. President, if you allowed tattooing, Mr. President? Because every time somebody goes to jail, he has to have a tattoo. And if you prevent tattooing, Mr. President, yung mga bata, hindi masasama yan eh. And pag nakatattoo yung mga tao doon, then they will know they have to behave. Because by tattooing themselves, they're practically marking themselves as practically, to be simple or simplistic, which I don't parang they're becoming hardened. So, siguro, there will be more good conduct if you remove the tattooing. And that if they can, I'm just suggesting this, Mr. President. It just came out of the manifestation of Senator Angara.
I know why you're suggesting it. Because you cannot donate blood anymore when once you have...
No, they can donate blood after 1 or 2 years, Mr. President. They can. I could not get blood from although...
Mr. President.
All right, the minority leaders.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have a personal attachment to this case. I was the one who prosecuted and had Sanchez convicted and sentenced to 7 life terms. The theory being that there were 7 of them in conspiracy, and the act of one is the act of all, and the penalty of one should be suffered by the rest of the 7, of the 6. And that is how the 7 life sentences came about, because there were 7 of them. So that is why he was sentenced to 7 life terms. However, the revised penal code provides that a penalty cannot exceed 40 years. Having said that, Mr. President, I can see the validity of the position taken by Senator Angara, of Senator Gordon. I just stand up in order to put a caution on the record, because an amendment to the law which will make clear that Mr. Sanchez and his cohorts cannot avail of the good conduct time allowance.
Equal protection.
An amendment, if Senator Angara can listen a bit, because this is his theory. An amendment which will say that those who are guilty of heinous offenses may not avail of the good conduct time allowance may imply, and I underscore may imply that today he is entitled to it. Because you're amending it in order to make clear that those who are guilty of heinous crimes are not included in the bill, in the law. And if you do that, Mr. Sanchez can claim that that cannot apply to him because it will have the nature of an ex post facto legislation. So ako po, sinasabi ko lang, ingat tayo. Let us study it carefully. We should not go into this blindsided by our sympathies for the families of Sarmiento and Gomez. Indeed, they deserve the sympathy. As I said, I myself should be the first to have that sympathy on record because I personally prosecuted this guy. I see evil in his face, whether or not you have the death penalty. But there's the point, Mr. President, of amending the law to make it clear that it is not applicable to him, will create the presumption that today the law is on giving him good conduct allowance is applicable to him. I would rather I would attack the factual basis for his availment. In other words, you know, the Senator Gordon alluded to the manual of was it Senator Ongara, who alluded to the manual. The manual, Mr. President, enumerates 45 violations that will prevent you from availing of the
Good conduct time allowance.
If you examine it closely, yung anghel lang po na nakaupo dyan sa tabi, ang hindi po pwedeng magkamali. So, paano po, how did Sanchez become entitled to this good conduct time allowance? If you are to believe the Bureau of Correction spokesman, he said Sanchez has already served an equivalent of 49 years. 49 years. And he was finally convicted only, I think, in 1998 or 1999. Barely 19 years. Huh?
1995. The case was 1993.
No, he was convicted in the RTC.
Convicted.
In the RTC.
Yes.
He was finally convicted by the Supreme Court in
1999. All right.
Or
correct.
barely 20 years ago. How did it happen that he was credited with 48 years? You will say he has not violated the appropriate rules. Kung titingnan mo lang po yung dyaryo Ginoong Pangulo, you saw Mayor Sanchez in with wristwatch, shades, balat ang sapatos, maganda ang suot. Under that manual cited by Senator Angara, non-wearing of prison uniform is a violation. Now, so how did it happen that he was getting all of these credits when the enumeration of 45 instances when you will be deprived of the benefit would prevent him from from earning this time allowance benefit? He was found to have violated the rules on the Comprehensive Drug Act. He was twice. And under, again, that manual of the OJ, it says violation of the law or an ordinance.
We can clarify then that his fresh start, his day one for good conduct was after the picture was taken with him with sunglasses.
Yes, Mr.
Di ba?
But I'm just taking this opportunity to spread into the record. And just a word of caution, that I myself would be in favor of letting letting Mayor Sanchez rot until for 15 more years, so that if he's still alive, he will be 88 at that point. Yeah? But I am not saying that this is the result of an amendment. I am just saying that we be cautious in making the amendment, as it can be taken advantage of by the lawyer of Mayor Sanchez, whoever that lawyer is.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Gordon,
The point is very well taken, and I thank the minority floor leader, as usual, for his astute interpretation of the Constitution. In fact, this will indeed create a situation where there is an ex post facto law, which the law abhors, Mr. President, the Constitution abhors. Now, having said that, Mr. President, the whole point is not just that fact, but the point is it is subject indeed to abuse, to capricious conduct, to corruption, and that's what we are trying to prevent here. It is also intended, it is also the intention of the Justice Committee when we do it, to look into the fact that there are many people who are overstaying, or who are overstaying not only in the penitentiary because of the carpeta being hidden and because some people are asking for money, but also for the detention prisoners, Mr. President, who are languishing there even beyond the time that they ought to be serving later on. Also for the young people, the minors, that has been a subject of debate here. A digitization will allow us to see at any time, the public to see what is happening, and it will also allow for the public, especially those who have been aggrieved, to find out what is the status of the person who killed or who raped or who robbed them, so that they will know what to do just in case that happens, Mr. President. Thank you.
But you were correct when you said earlier that some of them are overstaying because they do not want to leave.
That's correct, sir.
As a matter of fact, Congressman Baby Asistio, who served 11 years, as he was in fact the mayor of the entire Muntinlupa, the National Bilibid prisons. He served for 11 years. He was pardoned by President Marcos after the 11th year. But once he received the pardon, he did not leave. He could not leave. He said he was afraid going out. He had a trauma going out of the Muntinlupa. He went back and stayed for another almost 1 year. So I understand your point when you said there are overstaying who should not be there anymore.
That's correct, sir.
Correct. Anyway, Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. Just also my 2 cents worth on this issue with indulgence of Senator Gordon. Although I agree with Senator Dulon that we should tread carefully on this particular issue, but it's similar to what had happened sa anti-hazing law, where there were loopholes that were being exploited by certain groups when a case would be filed against them. The particular reason, and I'm not just talking about Sanchez, although I'd like to put on record that I was appalled with the move of the Bureau of Corrections to allow him to avail of the good conduct time allowance, being that I'm from UPLB, Mr. President. They're my co-alumnus of UPLB, and I remember that my co-alumni, and I remember, Mr. President, that the places where they were kidnapped were the places that I would hang out. Could have been me if they did this 4 years earlier, because I graduated in 1990 and they were abducted, I think, in 93, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. President. So, it could have been me, could have been my friends. So, medyo masakit po din po sa amin itong mga taga UPLB. And the good minority floor leader would have been the one prosecuting them. But my point being is there are a lot of things that we can look into, because what struck with me, Mr. President, was a statement of our good colleague, Senator Lacson. And when he mentioned the other day in the news that, or actually, no, in conversation here last week, that there were several kidnapped for ransom convicts that are applying for this particular GCTA, Good Conduct and Time Allowance. Mr. President, imagine the families that testified against these people, na ito mga balasubas will be allowed to go out again and be possibly a threat to these families. Nakakala nila nakakamit na silang hustisya, that they are going to be there for life. And this is not just on kidnap for ransom, many other instances of drug trafficking to other heinous crimes, Mr. President. And that is why a review needs to take place. We need to review the law, and I support the move of Senator Gordon. Maybe, for example, there's a provision in the law. And I'm not a lawyer, Mr. President. I do not pretend to be one, although sometimes we call ourselves murag abogado. Murag abogado in Visayas, parang abogado. Mr. President, for example, it is the Bureau of Corrections, the Bureau of Corrections head, who can make the decision, who can avail, and if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, the good gentleman is there to correct me, on the privileges of the GCTA. Can't we put further another layer where the DOJ reviews the recommendation of the BOC? Because let's be practical about it, Mr. President. The BOC is not run by lawyers. Many appointments to the BOC, the Bureau of Corrections, are either ex-policemen, ex-military, like what we have in the past few years. They're not lawyers. The DOJ, at least if it has another layer to review the proposals of the Bureau of Corrections, are manned by lawyers. And they will see if there will be a violation of the terms or conditions given by the law, Mr. President. So things like this we should look into, and I'm not doing this just for that Sanamagan, or strike off the record, Mr. President, this fellow convict Sanchez, Mr. Sanchez, but for everybody else. Because if that happens, Mr. President, my worry is nobody will testify. Nobody will risk their life, knowing fully well that those guys will pretend and feign to be good people for the next 10 years, which has happened in the United States, by the way, Mr. President, and come out of jail, and their lives, they will just go on a hunting spree and look for these people and terminate their lives and go back to a criminal spree or go on a criminal rampage, Mr. President. This is actually the same problem in the United States, where in the criminal justice, the justice system and the penal system of the United States are now having problems because many of these gunmen, these psychotic gunmen, rapists, sexual offenders, were actually pardoned or paroled, Mr. President. Paroled is the word. And they move state. They just move from California to Utah or California to Texas, and then they commit the crime again, and it's found out that this fellow had convictions in several states and paroled.
Yes, I've read about that
Yes,
also.
Mr. President. So that is one thing that I think we should look into. And I'm happy that we have legal luminaries here. We have former DOJ Secretary, former Senate President of ours, as well as Senator Gordon and Senator Angara, who can help us. And on the side of the PNP, we have the likes of Senator Lacson, who himself has apprehended. He mentioned earlier in our Committee on Rules meeting over 83 convictions of kidnap for ransom that are rotting in jail, that are applying now for this good conduct and time allowance, Mr. President. So we have to look into this further, Mr. President.
That's the problem with the term that some are saying about second chances. We're going to give them a second chance to commit the same crime again?
Correct, Mr. President.
It could be the other way around, right? So,
Yes.
So I have a better suggestion. But of course, this is just a mere suggestion. We will let the committee do what its work. But my suggestion is repeal the law.
Yes,
Give
Mr.
it back to the president, presidential pardon.
And the
That's
parole, yes, Mr. President.
Repeal
To the
law.
old system.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. President.
Anyway, yes, so.
So I'd like to
Referral?
move to refer, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
I believe that.
Senator Gordon,
Just a comment, Mr.
one
President.
final wrap-up.
There have been a lot of privileged speeches because of this speech, Mr. President, and I'm glad that we have tickled the imagination and the mind and the intellect of our fellow senators, and I'm very happy about that. I'm proud about that, because a lot of things came out in the woodwork. I just wanted to say, Mr. President, justice, to my mind, is absolutely violated when those who are victims of injustice finally give up on it. To me, that's the absolute, Mr. President. I remember, Mr. President, I became very, very passionate and very, very aggressive, and to the point of really making sure that I walk my talk all the time, was when the assassins of my father, and remember my father, there were 3 attempts on my father's life, and none of the masterminds were ever captured, Mr. President. Some of them were put in jail. And the final cut of it all was when then President Marcos, siguro may lumakad, kinomute yung sentence from death to life. Kinomute. The feeling, Mr. President, of this representation as well as my family, I cannot speak for my family, but to me, it really hit my chest like a battering ram, Mr. President, because I thought that walang justice dito sa bansang ito. But then, of course, later on in my years, I've said, okay, the ultimate punishment is really to rot until you finish your term in life imprisonment, which I think is a more difficult penalty, not only for them, but for their families as well. But the point of this conversation, Mr. President, today, and I really appreciate all the comments, is that we try to make justice work. There will be people who will say, katulad niyan, no second chance, mga ganyan. That's a valid point. But we must make it work, Mr. President. Cannot accept, for example, when I went, or I've been there several times in my work as Red Cross, nakikita ko may mga preso doon, may mga malalaking kama, may tennis courts, and these are friends of ours, Mr. President. I just shook my head, Mr. President, out of disbelief. I kept my mouth shut. I wonder, by keeping my mouth shut, whether I was really perpetrating an injustice. This guy Sanchez, I saw, and I approached him from the back, and he was, as Senator Gilon said, garbed in civilian clothes, and had a cell phone and all that, Mr. President. And they were having 2 parties when I was there, Mr. President. Lechon was being served left and right. There was even somebody, in my last visit, somebody was playing the saxophone, and there was a party going on while he was playing the saxophone. Something is wrong, Mr. President. I don't know what the solution is. I've always said that perhaps we should carve out the Bucor and put several prisons in the regions, Mr. President. That way it will be more controllable. I think the solution of trying to drain the swamp, so to speak, through this law, that was the attempt, I suppose, of Senator Santiago, and I think it was a well-intentioned. That is also necessary. And during the speech of Senator Zubiri, Senator Bato came by, and I told him, hindi ba pwedeng gawin niya? Kasi sir, sabi niya gano'n, pagka tinanggal niyo yung tattoo, nag-uumpisa yan doon sa detention center pa lang. And I know that, being a mayor, pagkakit nila doon sa taas, meron na silang barkada, meron silang proteksyon. So we are perpetrating the fraternity system of criminals. Now perhaps if we go forward, if we say later on, no good conduct if you are tattooed or if you are a member of the gang, baka magbago. But you cannot do that, and I don't think it's going to work either completely, but you could have more jails, more penitentiaries in the countryside. And perhaps they should be put to use by planting and, making sure that they can get prison food, better prison food. And that's where you get good conduct also, Mr. President, when they plant or when they start studying for a skill. So, Mr. President, that's all I wanted to say today. I am happy that we are not angry shaking our fists here, but I think we're looking for a solution to all these problems. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, dear colleagues. Mabuhay po kayo.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer the speech of the good gentleman from Zambales and all the statements and comments to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights. So move, Mr. President.
Right, any objection? Hearing none. Refer to the Committee on Justice. Might as well ask the chairman of the Committee on Justice to check on the bill that I filed establishing a national penitentiary for high-level drug traffickers.
We will do that, Mr. President.
Especially if you do not want to pass the death penalty law.
At your service, Mr. President.
I agree with you fully, Mr. President.
We can start with that. Remove all the drug offenders from the national prisons, put them in an island full of sharks.
I agree,
And
Mr.
then,
President. We totally support that, Mr. President.
all right.
Mr.
May
President.
we have a few minutes of...
Yes, may we request for a 1 minute break?
Any objection? Hearing none. Session is suspended for 1 Senate minute. reference lang. Sabihin boom, boom, boom. Oh. Oh.
Mr. President, ready to resume.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move to proceed with the reference to business.
The Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Reference of business, bills on first reading. Senate number 931, an act providing burial assistance for unclaimed remains and for indigent decedents, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Social Justice and Finance.
Senate number 932, entitled an act further strengthening the system of birth registration of children in need of special protection in the Philippines, introduced by Senator Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Women and Finance.
Senate number 933, an act granting senior citizens a minimum of 5% discount on the first 150 kilowatt hours of electricity consumption and on the first 50 cubic meters of water consumption, and exemption from the value-added tax, VAT, amending for this purpose Republic Act number 9994, otherwise known as the Expanded Senior Citizens Act of 2010, introduced by Senator Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Social Justice and Ways and Means.
Senate number 934, an act mandating the provision of free on-site living quarters for public school teachers, providing funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Basic Education, Public Works, and Finance. Senator Tolentino is
Mr.
recognized.
President, may I request that the referral be reconsidered and that the Committee on Human Settlements and Housing be likewise involved as a tertiary or secondary committee, Mr. President.
This is Senate Bill 934.
934, Mr. President, considering that there are several bills filed right now relative to housing for teachers, Mr. President.
Are you proposing for as a secondary committee or a primary committee? No, it's only committee, social justice lang ito eh. And Ways and
This is
Means.
for,
You're
Mr.
proposing
President.
that it be a primary committee or a secondary?
It's now, Mr. President, the Committee on Basic Education, Arts and Culture, Public Works. Yes, these are the three committees already, Mr.
I'm
President.
talking about 93,
934, Mr. President.
934. So it's already three, wait, No, we cannot do that, but we can,
Mr. President,
there's
may?
minority leader.
Yes,
right?
Mr.
yes.
President.
When you look at Senate Bill number 934, at least from the title, shouldn't finance be the primary committee? Because this involves funding, and funding is a principal issue here. And number two, the Committee on Housing. I do not know what's basic education. got to do with this.
Correct. Basic education does not.
It should be
really-
finance and then housing.
All right, so
Mr. President, maybe just
that's correct.
to clarify.
Public Works, why should Public Works be involved then?
I agree, Mr. President. We'll have to ask the
So
Secretary.
let us now.
We can move it to the Committee
Yes,
on.
I act. The act will be, or Senate Bill 934 is hereby referred to the Committee on Finance, the Committee on Urban Planning, and Public Works. All right,
Thank you, Mr. President.
all right. Proceed.
Senate Bill number 935, an act to provide free legal assistance to all indigent Filipinos, amending for the purpose Chapter 5, Title 3, Book 4 of Executive Order number 292, otherwise known as the Administrative Code of 1987, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Justice, Social Justice, and Finance.
Senate number 936, an act establishing the Philippine Geriatric Center, Research and Training Institute, defining its objectives, powers, and functions, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Health, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate number 937, an act to protect the interests and welfare of Filipino seamen and sea-based migrant workers, establishing for the purpose a National Seafarers Administration, appropriating funds and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Labor, Foreign Relations, and Finance.
Senate Number 938, an act mandating all employers in the private and public sectors, including all government offices, agencies, and instrumentalities, to provide free of charge, clean, healthy, sufficient, and accessible drinking water to all its employees, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Labor, Civil Service. Yeah, those two.
Senate Number 939, an act prescribing school bus safety standards and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Public Services and Basic Education.
Senate Number 940, an act integrating basic road safety and comprehensive driver's education in the curriculum of the Enhanced Basic Education K-12 program, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Higher Education and Finance.
Senate Number 941, an act enhancing the capabilities, mandate, and organizational structure of the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, MTRCB, amending for the purpose Presidential Decree 1986, introduced by Senator Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Public Information, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate Number 942, an act for the protection, conservation, and rehabilitation of watersheds supporting the National Irrigation Systems, NIS, to ensure continuous supply of water for agricultural production and self-sufficiency in food and providing funds for the purpose, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Public Works, Environment, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate Number 943, an act protecting the rights of internally displaced persons, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Justice, Social Justice, and Finance.
Senate Number 944, an act ordaining the Bill of Rights of taxi passengers, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Public Services and Finance.
Senate Number 945, an act to enhance genuine Filipino culture, promote nationalism, and recognize writers and artists by supporting the Philippine comics industry through its mandated use in instructional materials in public schools, providing financial incentives and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Public Information, Basic Education, and Ways and Means.
Senate Number 946, an act to establish programs and activities to aid victims of elder abuse and providing training to health and government professionals in the assistance of such victims, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Social Justice and Finance.
Senate Number 947, an act modernizing the Bureau of Fire Protection, BFP, amending for the purpose Republic Act 6975, otherwise known as the Department of Interior and Local Government Act of 1990, providing funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Soto III.
To the Committees on Public Order, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate Number 948, an act promoting sustainable and alternative modes of transportation and other mobility options, introduced by Senator Binay.
To the Committees on Public Services and Environment.
Senate Number 949, an act strengthening the healthcare system in cultural and indigenous communities by institutionalizing the training and employment of tribal health workers and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Binay.
To the Committees on Health and Cultural Communities.
Senate Number 950, an act penalizing the dissemination of false information as to the presence of bombs, explosives, and other incendiary devices in high-density or sensitive places and providing penalties therefore, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committee on Public Order.
Senate Number 951, an act amending Republic Act Number 8972, otherwise known as the Solo Parents Welfare Act of 2000, providing additional benefits for solo parents and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
To the Committees on Women, Social Justice, and Ways and Means.
Senate Number 952, an act amending Republic Act Number 7743, otherwise known as an act providing for the establishment of congressional, city, and municipal libraries and barangay reading centers throughout the Philippines and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
To the Committees on Basic Education, Local Government, and Finance.
Resolutions, PS Resolution Number 102, Resolution honoring and commending the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipinos of 2019, introduced by Senator Villanueva.
To the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution Number 103, Resolution commending and congratulating the Philippine team to the 15th International Mathematics Contest, introduced by Senator Pacquiao.
To the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution Number 104, and Resolution commending and congratulating the outstanding Filipinos of 2019 awarded by the Metrobank Foundation, introduced by Senator Pacquiao.
Committee on Rules.
Communications, letter from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas transmitting to the Senate copies of the following certified and authenticated BSP issuances in compliance with Section 15A of Republic Act Number 7653, the new Central Bank Act, Circular Letter Numbers CL2 2019-053, 054, 055, dated 5-1 August and 29 July 2019, and Circular Numbers 1043, 1044, dated 2-6 August 2019.
To the Committee on Banks.
Additional reference.
There is additional reference to business. You may proceed.
Additional reference of business message from the House of Representatives. Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 20 August 29, it passed House Number 1026 entitled An Act Amending Sections 141, 142, 143, 144, 147, 150, 152, 263, 265, and 288-A, and adding a new section 2908 to Republic Act Number 8424 as amended, otherwise known as the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997, in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
Resolutions. PS Resolution Number 106, resolution directing the Committee on Justice and Human Rights to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the reported eligibility of Antonio Sanchez for an early release from prison with the end in view of ensuring the proper implementation of and enacting remedial legislation to Republic Act Number 10592, introduced by Senator Drilon.
To the Committees on Justice and Constitutional Amendments.
PS Resolution Number 107, resolution directing the Senate Committees on Justice and Human Rights, Constitutional Amendments, and Revision of Codes and other appropriate committees to review, in aid of legislation, the implementation of Republic Act Number 10592 on Good Conduct Time Allowance, GCTA, with the end in view of amending the same in order to ensure that those prisoners who truly deserve the law's benefits shall be granted of the same, introduced by Senator Soto III.
To the Committees on Justice and Constitutional Amendments. Majority Leader.
With that, Mr. President, no other official business for the day. I move that we adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wednesday, August 28, 2019. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. The session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, August 28, 2019.
Thank you very much.